Hello and welcome. You're viewing the Citizens Journalist podcast, Mesa County Compass, that brings you the news that you can use from a different point of view. I'm Ruth.
I'm Lisa.
And together we are Mesa County Compass. Our goal is to create an informed, current, active citizenry armed with the facts. We will be covering what's new to you, what it means to you, what you can do about it, and provide you access to the decision makers when we can. Good afternoon. We're here with Mesa County Compass, and it's a Thursday afternoon, and we have a really interesting guest speaker. We have Christy Anderson coming on today. She is an educator, third grade teacher right at Wingate, and she's also a part-time realtor, and she's got some interesting things to tell us about. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you.
In this phase, can you give us a little bit of your background on what you're all about and why you got into teaching, and just carry on from there, please.
Yeah, so I have been teaching for 26 years in the district. I started 26 years ago teaching kindergarten, first grade, second grade at Shellady Elementary in Fruita, and then 16 years ago, moved to Wingate. I have a great team, great building, and I went into teaching because my fifth grade teacher, her name, you're not even going to believe this, Mrs. Hart, where I grew up in Glenwood. Mrs. Hart was, she just showed me a lot of compassion and love, and fifth grade was hard for me, and so I just remember thinking, I want to be that for someone. So came over here to Mesa State, and the rest is history. I became a teacher and still love it. Just came from my teaching position, and yeah, brings me joy.
So how did you find real estate in the middle of all of that?
It's actually kind of a funny story. I was actually selling jewelry at the time, if you've heard of plunder, like the big chunky.
Oh, right.
And we had a jewelry party. One of my friends had a jewelry party for me at her house, and it was a lot of parents from students that I was teaching that year. And the parents were like, I don't know how you teach our kids. We just kind of laughed about it, and I said, I really didn't see doing anything different except for maybe real estate. And I had a friend that was there, and she kind of heard me and then followed up with me, and she said, are you serious about that? And I said, yeah, I think I am. You know, I'm ready for a new challenge. So I signed up, started taking my classes in January. It'll be 4 years ago. Had 6 months to do my online, so I stayed up late nights. I kind of nerd out about all of that, though. I had like all of my flashcards and my colored tabs, and took my test that July because they were going to turn all of my learning off. So I knew that I had 6 months to make this happen. And the day that I took my test was not beautiful. It was during COVID protocols. I had to be in an office, and I couldn't clear the clearance because they could still see my phone. You can't leave to go to the bathroom or get water or anything, and I couldn't get on. So I got onto my test 45 minutes late. So I'm already thinking, I'm going to have to retake it. It's not the end of the world. And I thought, I'll just go through and answer the questions I know. Well, I didn't feel like I knew that I had been studying at all. So I just kind of put it in the Lord's hands and knew that I might have to redo it. And I didn't. I passed the first time, and I've been able to help 12 wonderful families. I have 2 right now that I'm working with, actually 5, but in different ways, and I love it. So I've got a great team at Bray that helps me out, and it allows me to do both.
Great.
Very good.
Great.
Interesting.
I would not recommend it for a newer teacher.
No. Especially not your first 5 years.
Oh, no.
Because that's when they say the greatest attrition rate is. It's so hard learning and getting that. So what changes have you seen in education over the past 26 years?
Yikes. So I'm going to bring in the teachers union. I started teaching kindergarten, and I was approached by a fellow colleague, and I was told, you know, you need this. And I was young, 22, 23. Nobody wants to be sued. And so you talk about like if something were to happen and if you found yourself in a situation with a student. So I did sign on, and then I taught kindergarten. I moved to first grade. I had great experiences, great teammates. I still am really good friends, especially with one teacher that she's the reason that I am the teacher today. She would probably cry. We would cry together. I just love her. And we carpooled together for 10 years going out to Shawnee because we both lived in town. And we did fun things. She was so creative with songs and chants and poems and little mnemonics for memorizing different things. And it was first grade. It was fun. And then I remember No Child Left Behind became a thing. And we were told in the beginning that it was like, we're going to have these tests, but it's only going to last for a short time. They're not going to run our schedule. They're not going to really change a lot of things. And it became really apparent very quickly that the tests were starting to rule the school calendar and rule just our lives. It seemed like even today we do a ton of assessing. And we did kids voting, and it was fun. Like, we just talked about the candidates. We recognized that there were 2 candidates. We talked about the facts about each one of them. The kids got to vote. We had healthy conversations in first grade. I mean, we had some interesting things in first grade. But I even had Heather O'Brien's daughter, and she'll come later in my story. So it was a good time. And then, you just keep teaching, and things just keep going on. And then I would say about 7 years ago, I knew things were changing. I knew that I wasn't teaching social studies anymore. I knew that we weren't doing kids voting. I knew that there were lots of things that seemed like nobody really wanted to touch those subjects.
Did you question that at the time?
At the time, I did not. And that is what is really crazy to me, is that I feel like a lot of this stuff just came through under our noses, like under my nose. I know that things were changing, but so was I. I had moved to a new school. I don't know if you remember, but we had a principal that just it wasn't good. We had to go through mediation at Wingate, and she ended up leaving. And so we had a lot of changes, and that was one of the last things that I really questioned. I noticed that there were some topics on books that I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. But I didn't think much of it. It did bother me that we weren't, like, I have always taught debate, even in third grade. I've always taught, it's cat versus dog, and they have to come up. I mean, it's nothing like politics,
Right.
but I have always, taught that, because that's an important piece of society. Like, kids need to know.
Teach you to think.
And kids need to know, I tell them when I'm teaching reading, like, if we're sitting in a reading group and everybody at the table says brain match, like same answer, same answer, same answer, there's really no learning taking place. So you have to be able to say, I don't completely agree with that, but here's why, and be respectful about it. And that's just always how I've operated. But I would say about 7 years ago, so I started getting a little more involved in like policies, and there were a couple of board members that, the union lost it over, and I sadly was right there with them. These 2 board members were talking about merit pay and some different things, and I am not against merit pay. I think that if I'm working harder than others, and I'm not the only one, consistently, I think there should be kind of a recognition.
Right.
I mean, there are times when we're told that we can't celebrate because other feelings will be hurt, and that's like... So anyway, I got involved, knocked on doors on the side of the union, became the membership chair for our president at the time. And her and I were very different. We knew that in the first meeting. We knew that we were politically not the same. I was happy that I was welcomed into the group with open arms, and I attended trainings with them. So we would attend a training in Breckenridge, and I was at the table with a group, and there would be somebody would get up and say, "We're having a social for the colored people," and it's a room of 600 educators. And I would start to question, like, and I would ask the president, I'm like, does that bother you? And no. So then the next day we would get up at a training, and this is all put on by the National Education Association, but this is Colorado Education Association. They're getting the same Mesa Valley Education Association. I want everyone to know, because people do not want you to know, and it's easier if you feel like your friends are not going to do something to you.
Right.
So a lot of people, I think, don't even realize that the MVEA is part of NEA. Their money, a lot of money. I have the receipts to show you how much money goes there and to the state. So anyway, somebody got up and he said, I don't know if you know this or if you've noticed, but okay, we're in Breckenridge, Colorado. I don't know if you've noticed this, but this room is predominantly female white.
And?
So there were like these little things with this training. So actually the past president of MVEA, her and I was actually pretty close with a lot of them. I mean, we went to trainings together. I like hours of my life to leadership training at CEA. I would say another thing is there was a group of us, and we went for a GLUE training, and I can't remember what GLUE stands for, but it's about leadership. I know the L was Leadership Union, and CEA does this really weird chant at the end of their meetings, and I was just kind of like, there was one day, so we started out, and they flashed, there were about 40 teachers in this room at CEA. They flashed a picture of Betsy DeVos. Betsy DeVos is our, that was Trump's first Secretary of Education. And then they ask you to go to 4 quadrants in the room. So like one quadrant was, I don't really know her. Another quadrant was, I'd like some more information. And then one quadrant was, I'm ready to start, I want to make posters, I want to start protesting. And then the other quadrant was, I'm ready to leave right now at CEA and go walk around the Capitol with something to protest DeVos. And so I've never been silent. I've always been a vocal person. You know where I stand. I don't play games with you. And I was the only one standing in the corner that was like, I need more information. And so, of course, I was the only one. So she comes over to me and she's like, Christy, how do you feel about being the only one in this corner? And I said, fine.
Yeah. I'm the only honest one.
And I looked out at all of the teachers that are ready to go walk the Capitol, go protest, lynch DeVos. And I'm like, you know why I'm standing here? It's because my colleagues acted the same way you are. We teach kids, no hate, don't judge a book by its cover, right. Don't think that, you need to assume best intent. Well, this was anything but. And so I just shared that. I said, look at all of you. I'm like, you're all ready to go take somebody out. And I said, Arnie Duncan wasn't that great either. So I've never felt like somebody at the top knew what it's like to be in the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
So the next picture they flash up is a picture of the students on the sidewalk or the curb at UCLA.
Okay.
You remember the protests. they pepper sprayed them, and then it was the big defund the police thing. And I come from law enforcement, so I find myself back in that corner. Now, I wasn't the only one. There was another one. But again, Christy, you're back here. Yes, I am. I said, you know what really bothers me is all of you are ready to go again, protest, lynch somebody. And I said, but isn't it interesting that there's nothing about what happened before?
Right.
And there's nothing about what happened after. So all you're looking for is the police were pepper spraying or whatever they were doing to those students. You don't have any context. And I was mad because that's my dad. That's what my dad was. So it was just these little things. So I would go to local meetings and we would be at the table and they would start bashing Trump and the Republicans, and then the president would look and say, guys, we're not all on the same, and I felt like I was being heard. I felt like I could bring a different view to this.
Mm-hmm.
So flash forward about 6 or 7 years ago, the past president of MBEA that just left her post, she came to me and said, I think you're a great candidate for the National Education Association's Teacher Leadership Initiative, TLI.
Okay.
So there were, I think, about 12 to 14 of us in the area. The leader is a great teacher in the district. I would never say anything negative about her. I believe that she was doing what the program wanted her to do. I have a lot of respect for her. But the first day of class, we do the privilege walk. So things you've only heard of, right?
Right.
I did it. So we go outside, you line up, there's 12 to 14 of us. And I had friends in the line, people that I had worked with on MVEA, different teachers. And it's like, go forward if your family never went without food. Go forward if you've never had to go without a roof over your head. Go forward if your parents are still married. Go forward if you get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Glenwood Springs. My parents were not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but they were smart and they had great jobs. My mom was a nurse for like 50 years. She retired. And my dad was a state trooper. So they did what they needed to do to live in Glenwood, and we did not go without.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm already
Way ahead.
Right.
singled out.
Right.
Like, I mean, I was kind of the only one that is out there, and nobody said it. They didn't have to.
Right.
I already knew that my place was kind of like, well, you're privileged.
Don't you feel bad about what you've had, what you've been able to have?
Yeah. Your parents gave you a car to drive, and you had a house to live in, and you had food on the table, and you got to go on vacations. Now, none of this was said. It didn't have to be.
No.
This was like the national story.
Right.
So I was taking my classes, and I do enjoy learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were just things that were coming through that we, had to cite or say. And sorry, that's probably my phone over there somewhere. And it just was like, what is going on? Like, this is not me. So we had to take another assessment on the computer. And I found out that I was racist and prejudiced to overweight people, which I had been a Weight Watchers leader for, I don't know, 7 years at that time. So I'm like, wow, I didn't know that, but they have all these questions that you answer. And so it was all part of this the Teacher Leadership Initiative. So I started going into our book room and I'm like, what do we actually have? And that's where I was like, we're killing everything. The oceans are dying, climate change. There was actually Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation readers. I was reading with a second grader, and there was a book about child labor in chocolate Like, it's a chocolate nonfiction book, and there's a caption. Another thing that really bothered me is our reading curriculum now is amazing. I'm not saying anything about it. I'm talking about the college units of study. I sat through a training that was very expensive and basically told from somebody that was in New York that was African American that my library in my classroom was racist. That's what I got out of that. So I even went to our principal and I said, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not doing this. I teach reading. I do what I need to do.
This does not pertain to me.
Yes. Like, this is not helping me. And actually, it's making me angry. Because talk about read the room. Like, you are in New York City. We are in Grand Junction, Colorado. And I've never treated a student differently based on skin color, beliefs, none of that.
They have no idea, though, what we do here. They don't know that we're not that way.
Right.
We just aren't.
Well, and you go, look anywhere, people are people. But
Right.
Marx said, if you give me a generation and I can educate them, I can change their viewpoint. And teachers being taught, if you're pushed that, then pretty soon you get uncomfortable to speak up. And you're thinking, well, that's not, it's always that political correctness. I need to say this, I can't say that. I can't say that doesn't make any sense.
You become afraid to make a move.
Yeah, and so that's when, like, my radar was just like, and I was talking to other teachers in the union, and I was like, you're paying for, they actually came to me and said, I'm paying for defund the police, but my significant other puts food on our table. That is their position. And my money that I give monthly is going to cut from that budget. So, just a lot of conversations. Well, the straw that broke the camel's back was I've been at the negotiations table. I negotiated the strategic compensation it made sense at the time. It did not make sense for years after, but I will give it that it made sense at the time. And it was only because they were afraid of these two board members. And looking back, I wish that I would have thought for myself and reached across, because I could have helped the messaging. But there wasn't any, it was just like, nope, you're evil, you're terrible, you're down with you, right? There was no conversation around that. So we're getting ready to go to my third delegate assembly, and this is about 5 years ago. And there is, at the MVA office, we have about 6 or so of us from Junction. And then we had some teachers from Montrose and some teachers from Delta. And I think there were a few from Durango, just because we were kind of the hub for the Western. There's a WCCU, and it's like the Western Colorado unit. And so the unions, they're kind of over MVEA in cahoots as well. So we're sitting there, and I've been to delegate assembly before. It's kind of like negotiations. A dog and pony show. Everybody knows what they're going to say. There isn't any swaying. And here's another thing is, well, I'll get to that. Just don't let me forget about leaving the union. So anyway, I was going to go to delegate assembly, and I sat in the meeting. And so I went to the meeting, and I don't know. We don't use names, do we? Retired? Okay. Kevin LeDuc. Kevin LeDuc. He ran against Heather in the MVEA presidency and lost. Huge. He was in the CEA. He was in the NEA. He went to all the things. And he was a friend of mine. Like, honestly, at some of the trainings in Breckenridge, he bought my dinner. We had a relationship. Like, it was respect. I felt respected. And they start talking about, and he's the leader at this point, they start talking about what we're going to the new business items. So you really don't have a say in the union. And I'm going to come back to that. Because it's already kind of decided. So they give you this paper and here are the new business items. Well, the first thing that caught my eye is they wanted, the Colorado CEA was pushing to have a week of Black Lives Matter taught in schools. So during February, you know, Black History Month, we would do a week of Black Lives Matter. This was at the time, I'm trying to think of like timing with George Floyd and that whole thing, because that was like our superintendent at the time put out something that should have never gone out. It was very partisan. And so anyway, I spoke up and I was like, I am very against this. I do not see how this is helpful. I do not see how this doesn't further polarize an already polarized society.
Right.
I was told, well, then you're racist and you're the problem, because if you go to New York and you see them racial profiling, you've never experienced that. So basically, I was just shot down. Nobody from my team wanted to hear from me. There were some teachers from Montrose that actually spoke up and said, no, I think Christy's right. Like, this is, why would we do this? You know, so I am seething at this point. Like, I don't even know what else was said. I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. But I didn't want to make a scene because that's not the type of person I am. But I'm also not going to roll over.
It's shut off everything.
Yep. So I went to the restroom and I tried to bring down my blood pressure. And I came back out, grabbed my things, walked out, and I was so mad, so mad. Not just because, like, call me names. That's not what bothered me. What bothered me was I was a local friend, teammate. I had traveled with these people. Like, we had been on committees. I had gone to meetings with them, all the
dinners
things.
with them. Yeah, the whole thing, yeah.
All the things. And for you to call me that, like, first of all, who do you think you are? You have no idea of the type of teacher that I am. You do not have any idea, really, of me. Mm-hmm. And I said a lot of choice words. I called Heather O'Brien and I said, I am done. And I gave myself shingles. I was so mad. It was physically, yeah, it was bad. So I called Heather and I said, this is not okay. Like, we don't treat each other this way. And I got a message from him. I was at church on Sunday and he said, hi, Christy, I heard that I said something that upset you. I'd love to get a chance to talk about it. And I texted him and I said, I don't need to talk to you. I won't be needing to talk to you. I have nothing to say to you. So that happened. And now I'm really thinking, like, why do I need this? Mm-hmm. It was like $75 a month. I think now it's closer to 90. Where's my money going? So I start digging in. I go down the rabbit holes. It was about that time that our board that we have now got voted in, and they brought me a flyer, and it said, first ever teacher, no, it was the Freedom Foundation. Mm-hmm. First of its kind ever. And at first I was like, is this a trap?
Yeah, skeptical, right.
Because we've never had anything like that.
And nobody goes against the union.
No, nobody goes against the union, no. I have friends, actually, that have had death threats because of what I'm doing. Like, I mean, this is, it's evil. So, anyway, I was like, yeah. But I was still a little leery. I mean, we were going to Denver. They wouldn't tell us who the donors were because they were afraid of retaliation. It was hush-hush. union members from Colorado Education Association met people that were coming to the campus or to our meeting. They met them at the airport to heckle them and make their life hard. So it was not announced that, because the union was coming out to make sure that people knew that they were there and that what we were doing wasn't right. Luckily, I didn't have to fly. So, but there were people that it got really kind of scary for some people as they got off their planes. And so it was kind of a hush-hush thing. I had done an interview for them because I was like, yes, there is finally something for people like me. You know, I don't go to work looking to be sued, but
Right.
you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
No, you don't.
I knew from all of my research that I did not want one more dollar to go. When you ask the local, you know, to keep your money from the political PACs, they'll tell you it's about 60 cents, which is not true. I happen to know that if you're paying about $80, about 11 stays local. The rest is going to Colorado and national. And I knew it anyway, because anybody that belongs to the union gets bombarded with who they want you to vote for, who they want, you know, the best for them. One thing that I find really interesting, and I think that teachers need to become critical thinkers, is, you know, teachers are always, you know, people say teachers don't make enough money, teachers don't get paid enough. Well, do critical thinking and see where every dollar of that is going.
Exactly.
Because you might not support it, and people have said to me, well, it's no different than like AT&T or Verizon or Starbucks or whatever, and that's true, but this is bigger for me. So I went, we had a great time. It was 150 teachers, like-minded, just like me. They gave us a bunch of cool swag and attorneys. It was like, you've got this, you've got this, you've got this. Now, this was the first year, and they only started the Freedom Foundation in the 90s. Freedom Foundation stands for less government and accountability, and union, you know, they're against unions. So anyway, went to the conference, loved it, felt so just amazing. We had like, you had to dress like in your best America, you know, outfits. And I mean, it was all American, lots of...
Very patriotic.
Yes, and lots of Christian believers, like, you know, it wasn't, you didn't see a lot of what we see today. It was just a breath of fresh air. And I met this mom from Rhode Island, Nicole Solis. I don't know if you've heard her story, but she just asked what they were going to teach her kindergartner, and oh my gosh, it was terrible, because since the 70s, if you go back and do your own research, there is the local unions have set it up to where they are the only bargaining entity for districts, and so they have been able to pay for their candidates, get their candidates in, and for how many years did people not attend a school board meeting?
Right.
Hundreds.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I know we
Yeah.
haven't been around that long, but just until recently.
yeah. I mean, I have this conversation with my mom, and I'm like, did you ever go? No, because they were doing what they needed to do for
You
kids.
let them handle their own business. You didn't think you needed to be involved. I can remember that.
Yeah.
But things changed.
Yeah.
Big time.
Huge. And so, so it's been like a shoo-in. And so then I'm like, okay, well, I've been in this district long enough. I've been on the other side. Like, no wonder things just kind of seemed like whatever the union wanted, the union got, whatever, you know. And then we find out, well, we paid half the salary. Well, okay. So, of course, they were lockstep, you know. And if you go back and look at its inception, the union in the 60s and 70s, it clearly says it's not about kids. You can find that in research. It's all about the power and the money behind it. So then you start looking around and you're like, that is correct, yes. So because I joined that, then I was able to find PACE, which is Professional Association for Colorado Educators. And there is a chapter in every state, and it is $19.50 a month. I have $2 million coverage, which is more than what NEA, CEA, and MVEA will provide to you. And I know that my money is not going to mutilating children, abortion. I don't care, everybody can have their own belief, but I'm not going to pay for that. I didn't want to pay for anything that took away from the main thing of learning. Mm-hmm. And I have said, if we as a society have 95, which I'm writing a book also, they're going to help me publish it. And it's basically the fact that the way the public school system is set up, it's not set up for proficiency. Right. There's too much money involved. So as I'm in longer, I see like, oh, the testing companies are the curriculum companies are the, so I'm working on my book, but
follow the money.
But anyway, so I just have really changed, like, I'm not going to pay for that. I don't need to. My money doesn't go to that. I have legal coverage, which is more, and this is what I wanted to go back to. So I've always been an involved teacher. I would take on leadership roles. I just feel like it was important to be in the know when the new things came down. But I realized very quickly that when I wanted to talk to, say, the superintendent or curriculum director, I would have to ask the union president. They would usually say, oh, well, no, you can't really email them. You can't, like, you're going to have to do this and
go through the proper channels.
Mm-hmm. Go through committees, and which I sat on many committees. But
that's how camels were designed.
No.
By a committee.
Oh.
Because
it's like, yeah. No, I get it. Sorry, I'm like a little too serious. Yeah. See, I get a little worked up.
No, and
it's fine because you're passionate about it, and I think you've got a good idea.
Thank you. Well, so anyway, I have this great network of friends from across the country, in 3 countries actually. We just have, it's like this really nice group of people, and we're all for what's best for kids. Mm-hmm. It's not about, if we had 95% proficiency in this nation, then maybe you can talk about some other things that families aren't doing anymore, but we don't. No. So I really think, and this is not popular, but I really think taxpayers need to start speaking up. Like, you pay for this. Do you want your child spending 15 to 20 minutes on a pronoun figuring out how to talk to them, or do you want them reading and writing and doing some math? Like, I've had lots of conversations, and that's what opened my eyes. Is I had issues with the safe zone, the rainbow safe zone, because I would not put that on my door. And I know people in the high school and middle school level that were like, well, it's become this, why don't you have that, Mrs. Anderson, on your door? So then just because a teacher like me wouldn't want that, then they're already like, oh, well, they're not safe. So I sat down with Dr. Hill, and I give him a lot of respect. He came straight to my classroom on my time. That would have never happened with MVEA.
Right, exactly.
And we had this great conversation, and I just said, so when are we going to start putting on our doors, I only take blondes, I only take the kids with glasses, I only take the kids, like, where does this end? Like, right. If we're not safe for everybody, then you probably don't belong in education. Maybe put it on the front door of every school, but don't single teachers out of the others. It's just madness. So
you don't need to have that at all.
No, yeah, that's what I wanted.
Certainly not a part of education.
I don't know what a pride flag has to do with math. And so I've had a lot of discussions around that. Usually they'll tell you, you know, LGBTQ have a higher suicide rate. Well, I have my own reasons for, I mean, maybe it's because we follow them around all the time and ask them how they are
Right.
all the time. We just gave the survey to our third graders.
Oh, God help us. Oh.
So anyway, it's, you know, like as you're in it and you start looking around, and then there was almost a little bit of guilt on my part, like, how did I not see this? Like, so I called, you know, Jen Marsh and Jackie Anderson, and I really respect them. They came in. Even, last year there was this chant at the beginning of the school year that there is nothing controversial about LGBTQ. Okay, repeat after me. There is nothing controversial about LGBTQ. So I call Jackie in and I said, I want to talk about this. Like, first of all, I don't like the chanting. And do we truly believe that this is not a controversial issue? So we sat down, we had a great discussion. I feel respected in the district. I feel heard. I know some people are like, oh, it's Christy speaking at the board meeting again, but I'm okay with that. I've worked for 4 years to try to get PACE in front of teachers, and it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, I've talked to everybody that I need to talk to. My goal was to have a table at induction, so that in policy it says we give options to teachers when it comes to professional organizations, but we don't. And so my question is, why not? So I think things are like starting to change. The Freedom Foundation is now known as the Teacher Freedom Alliance, and there are over 450 of us now. And I'm just hoping I guess if people are like, well, why do you keep doing this? Why do you speak out? Well, here's why. Because I want teachers to know that you don't have to go to work and be scared of getting sued if you're doing your job.
Right.
And there's a different way. Like, you don't have to pay for all of that. It is unreal how much money goes into political PACs for that left side.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
Recycled.
the MVEA is not the only one that does that, but that's another story entirely.
Yes.
Right.
No, this is like, as I get older, I mean, there's corruption and this money laundering happens in a lot of places, but I have decided I have more of a voice now than I ever did. I don't have to go through like, no, you can't say that, you can't do that, you can't.
This is your battle, Christy.
And
You're geared for it, and you are prepared for it, and you are good at it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And it's fairly simple. It's what does the NEA, because I don't even think we should say MVEA, what is the NEA doing for you? I mean, does it reflect your values? Does it reflect your community? Does it do anything that is positive toward education?
Or
You've
for
already
you.
said that. Yeah, or
And-
for
and
you. As a
we have
teacher, is it helping you teach?
Oh,
You have
so
to
here-
educate the teachers to the fact that they don't have to belong to this. It is not a requirement.
Yeah, and here's what is this blows my mind. So most teachers will say behavior is off the charts.
Right.
Most teachers will say workload is terrible. Like, I mean, I'm a teacher. I get it. Like, it is hard. We've taught 37 curriculums now. I've taught 30. This is my 37th curriculum in 26 years. It's hard. But guess where your money's going? Your money for the things that you go to the board meeting and rave about, your money is paying the lobbyists to create the systems that you don't like.
Very
So
interesting.
defund the NEA?
Well, the Teacher Freedom Alliance they've pulled millions out of that pot.
That's wonderful.
Well, and it is
I
the
like
things
the
that
fight.
teachers care about. I mean, classroom discipline is big, and you
Oh, it's huge.
And especially in elementary, it's gotten younger and younger and younger where the problems are arising. And that's what you want help with so that you can teach. You can't teach if you've got disruption going on in your classroom. I don't care how good you
So
are.
look at Randy Weingarten and Becky Pringle. So you have the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association. And their goals are nothing around reading, writing, math, social studies, science, as we know it. It is all activism. It is all polarizing. 4 years ago, I listened to Randy denounce Christians at a conference in Detroit. And that was another okay, well, you just more than half of your population. But here's the thing. People, and luckily in Colorado and with the Janus rights, nobody has to pay for that. But there are states where if you were going to be a teacher, you had to pay into that, whether you wanted your money to go to that or not. I met many teachers that their lives were very hard locally by their friends because they decided they didn't want to be part. And that's what's happened to me. I go to the board meeting, I know probably too much about some of them, and I'm called a bigot and a racist and a this and a that because I don't agree with them. What keeps us in the same vein, we're both teachers. So do I like dealing with behavior issues? No. Do I like all the workload? No. I mean, that is a common ground, but there is a way to do that, and it is not through MVEA.
The way you're going about it, Christy, is you're trying to educate the kids. They are trying to indoctrinate them.
Yep.
There's a huge difference.
Yep. So NEA has this thing because of the big push on the rainbow flags and stuff. They don't do that anymore. They actually have a badge now that NEA teachers will wear, and it's got a rainbow on it, and there's a QR code. And if a student is close enough, they just get that information. And you want to talk about a rabbit hole, a disgusting, need a shower rabbit hole. Those resources that they are claiming will help kids are horrible, horrible.
And that's an issue for another day. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, it just keeps going on. So my story is only one story. When you're in this room with these 400 educators, and every single one of them has a story. I'm not the only one locally that feels this way. I know I'm not. I've talked to people, but man, the fear mongering is really real. Mm-hmm. And I this is bad, but I kind of told my family, I'm like, if I go out fighting for kids,
so be it.
I mean, I know that seems dark, but it's like, you're not gonna change my mind. I know it's evil. It's not about my belief, your belief. It's about.
There are things that are true.
Yes.
You don't have to worry. It's not my truth and your truth.
No, there's no my truth. It is the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that is so interesting. But I agree with you on your 3 points that you had in the business times of what teachers want. The union isn't doing it for them. There's an alternative that they can get the legal help, because I know when I taught, the union approached me too and said, you need to join the union because we will protect you, and we'll send in our union rep with you and everything. And I said, I can get an endorsement on my homeowners and it gives me $1 million worth of coverage, which I don't think they do anymore. And
there
they
are
said,
other ways.
well, you're just taking advantage of
yes.
what we've done for you. And I said, okay. I said, you can't pay me anymore, because if you pay me more, that's great. But I think it's a fair wage, and I also think that I'm doing the best I can. I can't perform better because I'm giving you everything. So.
Yeah, and I don't want to be known. I want it very clear that those red shirts do not speak for all of us. I thought it was really interesting. I went on Tuesday. It's a time for celebration. We've had some really great things happen in our district. And I was expecting standing room only, be here when it's positive, not just when you're ready to take the roof off the building kind of time. And
really?
Nobody.
Really?
The president, Dan Worth, was there. Vicki Woods, that is running. She's a retired teacher. She's running against Angela Lima. And there were like all of the district admin. And then there were some people, I think Rick Peterson was there as part of union. And, but no, nobody, like I spoke, there were only 3 of us. And I didn't see one red shirt.
That's interesting.
So what are your closing thoughts, and what can people do if they are teachers or parents, or what would be the best way to take education back to
How can we
teaching?
support this?
So I have my hands in a lot of things right now. So I got to meet Ryan Walters from Oklahoma, and he's a state superintendent, and he has taken a lot of flack over the Bible and different things, and now he's trying to take standardized testing out. So a couple of things. The thing that people need to know is that our board could actually get a lot of work done without the red tape.
Right.
They could actually write policies. They could help us with policies. There's an article that will be coming out, but the language that was proposed to the board was horrendous and illegal, honestly. So the board could do a lot of things if they didn't have their hands tied. If people would get over the fact that they're not going to sit at the table, they don't have to. There aren't that many districts that sit at the table anymore. And I am trying to push, so Ryan Walters and Cade Bromley out of Louisiana have a Teacher's Bill of Rights. And they have come up with I feel like it could be a common ground for everybody. But it's like teachers have the right to a safe classroom, free of distractions, free of having to move a whole classroom of kids for one blowing out, where we're not always like, we're professionals. And so I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it's great to research because it's about treating us as professionals. We get to choose professional development. We don't have to sit in the same trainings as a 26-year veteran with a brand new teacher. I've said that.
Which isn't helpful to the
I've said it from
26-year.
the beginning. It's easy to plan, but it's not. We couldn't teach that way, so why it continues, I'm really not that sure. But so that just overall respect from every leadership down, like principal. I do have a great relationship with my principal, but we communicate, we talk. That's not true for everybody. And there's this fear that, well, that principal gives me my evaluation. And there have been situations that has been,
Not as
misused.
good as it could be. Yeah.
But I feel like right now we have a board that is holding people accountable at every level. We have leaders that are no longer leaders in the last. And so but the Teacher's Bill of Rights, I think it would be a really nice, if we could get something, and I mentioned that on Tuesday, just something. Like we've got restorative practice and SEL is all great, but go down those rabbit holes. So it's just like, we need to get back to the main thing. We need to give teachers classrooms that are free from all of this. And I think we need to start holding society more accountable. Like we are the Statue of Liberty, but we have to do this together. Not like Randy and Becky say from the NEA and the AFT that they are our children. They are not our children. They are our students. We support them. We guide them. We can love them, but that is not our role. They are not our kids.
Exactly. I love to hear you say that.
So I would like to see the board's hands not be so tied, and that's a big deal. I mean, I met with an attorney out of Florida for hours over that. But yeah, I mean, I think, let me have a spot at the table. Like, let me get emails out to teachers about options. Like, I don't know what it looks like, but I'm not going to give up.
Very
Great.
good.
Great. Anything else?
No,
you can come back to.
Yeah. No, I just thank you so much for this opportunity. You know, I am very vocal, and I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm okay with that. And I think that the thing is like, I know that I can lay my head down at night and know that I am doing right by kids and families.
That's the important part.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've been watching Mesa County Compass. This is the facts as we know them, the truth as we see it. You decide. Thanks.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
you.
much.